Swordsman series, the bow and arrow of Korea. One of Korea's traditional martial arts is archery, imbued with age-old wisdom and the spirit of independence. Archery is practiced widely today in Korea, not as a means of combat, but as a sport embodying that unique spirit of Korea. Korean bows and arrows have been treasured as products of the wisdom and dexterity of the East since olden times. This is a wall painting discovered in a tomb of the Goguryeo kingdom, which lasted from the 1st century BC to the 7th century AD. Koreans were obviously using bows and arrows even then, and the Chinese called Koreans excellent archers of the East. Archery was an indispensable skill required by a military officer at the time. Yecheong, in North Gyeongsang province, has long been known as a town for making bows and arrows. Here lives Mr. Kwon Young-nok, a 13th generation descendant of a family which has been in the bow and arrow making business for more than 400 years. Bow making has been a lifelong trade for Mr. Kwon, who's now over 60 years old. The materials needed for making a Korean bow are bamboo, mulberry wood, oak, cow tendon, and buffalo horn. As only a quarter of the outer portion can be used, one piece of buffalo horn provides the material for only a single bow. Horn is trimmed to size, about 55 centimeters long and 1 centimeter thick. The warp of the trimmed horn is now corrected over a fire, and the horn is soaked in water for 2 days. Then, 2 similar pieces are matched as a pair, and long grooves are cut on them for easy gluing. Bamboo is cut roughly to 36 or 37 centimeters in length and 4 centimeters in width. Here again the warp is corrected over a charcoal fire. Now it is cut to the exact size required. Both ends of the bamboo piece are cut into a V shape, and bamboo is bent into an arc form over a charcoal fire. Mulberry wood is trimmed to size, 40 to 45 centimeters long, 3.5 centimeters wide, and 1.5 centimeters thick. After boiling it in water, it is bent into a circular arc form, bound with a piece of string to keep its shape, and dried in the sun for about a month. Now both ends are shaped into a pinpointed form so that they can be connected to the V-shaped bamboo ends. for the bow's grip is also bent into an arc form. Tendons are dried in the shade, and grease and dirt are removed from them. Tendons from 2 cows are needed to make a single bow. Now the tendons are split into small pieces, close to the thickness of a human hair. With the addition of crocus bladder, which is used as glue, the materials are ready. Mr. Kwan likes to work late at night when it's quiet. He's been making bows and arrows since he was 16, and now he's passing on the technique to his eldest son, Ogyu. Now both ends of the bamboo and mulberry sticks are trimmed again, and glue from the crocus bladder is applied to the sticks. More than 20 coatings are demanded for the job. Each end is now fitted accurately to the other, and then the connected parts are bound with string and left as they are to dry for 2 to 3 days. When the glue is dry, the bow maker gets ready for another round of gluing to stick buffalo horn to the bow. A high room temperature is maintained when glue is applied. Here again, 20 to 25 coats are needed until the groove is well covered. Buffalo horn and oak for the grip also need to be glued. After drying, another coat of glue is applied to both buffalo horn and oak, and they are tightly bound together with string. After a while, heat is applied to the joint and it is bound with rope. It takes 5 to 6 hours for the glue to harden. The remaining piece of buffalo horn is also glued to the oak in the same way. The bow is about half finished at this stage. The inner side of this half-finished product is now scraped and trimmed, and 15 to 20 coats of glue are applied. The hardest part of bow making is preparation and application of cow tendons to the bow. Cow tendons are first soaked in warm water, taken out and dipped into the glue, taking care not to get them tangled, and then dried for about half an hour. Gluing the tendons proceeds at a room temperature of between 30 and 35 degrees centigrade. Gluing is done with wet hands and then combed so that tangles and bubbles are removed. Tendon gluing is repeated 4 times. After this, the bow frame is dried for more than 20 days at a temperature of between 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. Mr. Kwan tells his son that it is the spirit that counts in bow making. He believes that right mind and right spirit are the essence, as his calligraphic work would say. When the bow frame is completely dry, the ropes are unwound. The work of unwinding demands great strength and experience. The shape of the bow is now corrected by hand, and a piece of string is wound on both ends. Warp, if any, is corrected, and the bow is complete. It takes about 4 months in autumn and winter to make a bow, and a bow maker must touch the materials more than 3,700 times to make a single product. By a single pull of the bowstring, Mr. Kwan knows the quality of the materials used, the skill used in gluing, and the overall performance of the bow. The relation between bow and arrow is often compared with that of needle and thread. Mr. and Mrs. Yu Young-gi in Kumchong, Gyeonggi province are professional arrow makers. Bamboo rods, dried for over a month, are cut into a length of about 90 centimeters and baked over a charcoal fire. Well-baked bamboo is now shaped, but before doing so, small air holes are drilled in each piece to prevent it from cracking. Next, the bamboo skin is scraped off with a knife and the surface is scrubbed with fine sand. The front tip of the arrow is sharpened. Slender tendons are wound around it, and glue is applied and dried over a charcoal fire. Now a piece of bamboo, shaped into a cylinder by scraping out the inner part, is stuck onto it and glued. On the other end of the arrow, a sliver of bush clover, whittled into a knock, is inserted. A pheasant feather is glued on, as the fletchings. A hot iron is used for shaping them. Now an arrowhead is selected from different kinds according to the purpose of the arrow and stuck into place. It usually takes more than 10 days to make an arrow. Mr. Kim Dong-hak of Pohang, North Gyeongsang province, is a 4th generation of makers of quivers. Cut bamboo kept underground for 2 to 3 years is boiled in water, dried in the shade, the joints trimmed, and various patterns are carved on the surface. Carvers' favourite themes include dragons, tigers, cranes, turtles, and deer. The pattern stands out as the surface is lacquered and wiped off. Fitting ornaments and capping the lid with carved patterns of dragon's head, turtles, crowns and so forth finish the case making. Indeed, such bows, arrows and quivers are products of rare dexterity and technique handed down for generations. One needs a good deal of practice to become a good archer. A good archer creates a trinity between himself and the bow and arrow. His aim helps him reach the state of selflessness in which he sees a large near target instead of a small distant target. In Korea, the practice target is placed 145 meters away. As a traditional martial art, or as a modern-day sport, archery is quite popular among men and women in Korea today. They want to discipline mind and body by preserving that unique spirit of alert defense, using skill and dexterity.